The alarms screamed through every corridor of the flagship Time's Eternal Valor asterisk. Admiral Kesseth gripped the edges of his command console as the ship shuddered violently. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, their faces tight with fear. "Report!" Kesseth's voice cut through the chaos. "Quantum drive has failed, Admiral," his chief engineer said, her voice shaking. "It's not just us. The entire fleet. All 47 ships." Kesseth felt his blood run cold. A fleet-wide drive failure was supposed to be impossible. The Valorian Imperium had been traveling the stars for 3,000 years. Their technology was tested and proven. "This shouldn't happen. Can you repair it?" he asked. The engineer's face went pale. "Sir, it's not a normal failure. The quantum cores have collapsed. All of them. Simultaneously. I've never seen anything like this. We would need replacement parts, specialized equipment, maybe even a shipyard. How long until we can move again? Weeks. Maybe months." "Sir, we don't have the resources out here." Kesseth looked at the main display screen. It showed all 47 ships of the 7th Battle Fleet, hanging dead in space. 12,000 crew members. His responsibility. His people. And they were stranded. "Where are we?" he asked quietly. The navigation officer checked his instruments. When he looked up, his expression made Kesseth's stomach drop. "We're in human territory, Admiral." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Kesseth had read the intelligence reports about humans. Every admiral in the fleet had. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy, but they had made themselves known quickly. They were aggressive, territorial, dangerous. 3 different species had tried to push them around in the past 50 years. All 3 had regretted it. The humans didn't have the most advanced technology. They weren't the strongest species. But they never quit. They never surrendered. And they held grudges. "Life support status," Kesseth said, forcing his voice to stay calm. "Failing on ships 12 through 18, another officer reported. "We have wounded from the drive explosions. Medical bays are overwhelmed. Food and water supplies are limited. We have maybe 10 days before we start having serious problems." 10 days. Kesseth closed his eyes for a moment. They were crippled, stranded in the territory of a species that had every reason to see them as a threat. The Valorian Imperium had never been friendly with humans. They had never been enemies either. But that was only because they had avoided each other. Until now. "What are our weapons capabilities?" Kesseth asked. "Most systems operational, but limited power. We can fight if we have to. But not for long." Kesseth nodded slowly. He knew what he had to do. If the humans came, and they would come, the fleet had to be ready. Even wounded and broken, Valorian warriors would not die without honor. "Send orders to all ships," he said. "Battle-ready status. Charge all weapons that still function. Prepare for combat." "Sir," his second-in-command said carefully. "If we appear aggressive, the humans will attack us regardless," Kesseth interrupted. "We are an armed military fleet in their space. We are disabled. We are vulnerable. This is exactly the kind of opportunity any smart species would use. They can destroy us and claim we were invaders. We must be ready." End quote. "We were God." End quote. The officers carried out his orders. Across the fleet, weapon systems came online. Shields strengthened as much as damaged power systems would allow. Marines prepared for boarding actions. Medical teams worked to save the wounded, knowing they might have to fight soon. Kesseth recorded a message to his wife and children back on the homeworld. He told them he loved them. He told them he was proud to serve. He didn't tell them he expected to die out here. Hours passed. The crew worked to stabilize the ships as much as possible. They moved the most critical wounded to the vessels, with the best medical facilities. They rationed food and water. They waited. Then the sensors officer spoke up. "Admiral, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching. Fast. How many? At least 20. Maybe more behind them. 20 ships. Against a crippled fleet. Kesseth had hoped for more time. But the humans were efficient. He had to give them that. Ship types? He asked. The officer frowned at his display. That's strange, sir. They're not warships. At least, they don't match any human military vessel profiles we have. What are they then? I'm not sure, sir. Large cargo ships. Some kind of medical vessels, maybe. And smaller support craft. Kesseth felt confused. A trick? But what kind of trick? Why not just send warships and finish them quickly? Time until they reach us? 30 minutes. Broadcast on all frequencies, Kesseth ordered. Tell them we are a Valorian military fleet. Tell them we suffered a technical failure. Tell them we will defend ourselves if necessary. The communications officer sent the message. They waited for a response. It came faster than expected. A human voice, speaking clear, standard galactic language. Valorian fleet. This is the UNSS times Nightingale **. We received your distress signal. We are a humanitarian mission. Repeat. Humanitarian mission. We have medical supplies, food, water, and engineering support. We are here to help you. Please respond. Kesseth stared at the speaker like it had just spoken nonsense. Did they say, help us? His second-in-command asked. It's a trick, Kesseth said. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. The approaching ships really weren't warships. And humans were many things, but the intelligence reports never called them liars. They're broadcasting again, sir, the communications officer said. Valorian fleet. We know you're in trouble. We want to help. No strings attached. Just let us know what you need. Kesseth looked around his bridge. He saw 12,000 lives hanging in the balance. He saw his duty as their admiral. He saw the impossible choice in front of him. Trust the humans, or watch his people die slowly in the dark. Open a channel, he said finally. Let's see what game they're playing. Admiral Kesseth watched the main display screen as the human ships approached. They moved slowly, carefully. Not like attackers, but like doctors approaching a wounded animal. It made him nervous. He understood aggression. He understood war. This kindness felt like something he couldn't predict. They're maintaining distance, sir, the sensors officer reported. Smart, Kesseth thought. Or respectful. He wasn't sure which. The human voice came through the speakers again. This time, it was different. A woman's voice. Calm and warm. Admiral Kesseth, my name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm the mission coordinator for this relief operation. I know you have no reason to trust us. I know this situation is strange. But please. Kesseth gestured for his communications officer to open a channel. I'm listening. Dr. Chen. Thank you. About 6 hours ago, our deep space monitoring network detected energy signatures consistent with multiple quantum drive failures. We traced them to your location. We know who you are. We know you're a military fleet. And we know you're in trouble. So you came to finish us, Kesseth said. There was a pause. Then Dr. Chen spoke again. And Kesseth heard something in her voice. Sadness. Maybe. Or disappointment. No, Admiral. We came to help. We have 23 ships here now. More are coming. We have medical teams, engineers, supplies, everything you need. We're broadcasting our full ship manifests right now. You can see exactly what we brought. No weapons. No Marines. Just doctors and engineers and supplies. Kesseth looked at his tactical officer. The officer nodded. It's true, sir. They're sending detailed cargo lists, medical equipment, food, water, spare parts, repair tools. It's exactly what we need. Why? Kesseth asked. The question came out harder than he intended. Why would you help us? We're not your allies. We could be your enemies tomorrow. Dr. Chen's response came quickly. Maybe you could be. But today, you need help. That's enough reason for us. That makes no strategic sense. Maybe not, Dr. Chen agreed. But it makes human sense. Admiral, we've prepared detailed plans for helping your fleet. We can transfer them to you now. Medical support, engineering assistance, supply distribution. You can review everything. You can say no to any part of it. This is your fleet. You're in command. We're just offering to help. Kesseth looked around his bridge. His officers looked back at him. He saw the question in their eyes. What do we do? Send me your plans, Kesseth said finally. The data came through immediately. Kesseth pulled it up on his personal display. His second-in-command looked over his shoulder. As they read, both of them went quiet. The human plans were detailed. Thorough. Professional. They had proposals for treating the wounded. Suggestions for repairing the quantum drives. Lists of supplies they could provide. Schedules for rotating repair crews to avoid exhaustion. There were even notes about dietary requirements for Valorian physiology and suggestions for compatible food options. They did their research, his second-in-command whispered. This is still a trick, Kesseth said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sir, his medical officer spoke up. We have 63 crew members in critical condition. Another 200 seriously wounded. If the humans really have the medical supplies they claim, we could save most of them. Maybe all of them. Kesseth closed his eyes. He was an admiral. He had fought in 7 campaigns. He had commanded fleets in 3 wars. He knew tactics and strategy, and how to read an enemy's intentions. But he had never seen anything like this. Dr. Chen, he said, I'm willing to allow a small delegation aboard my flagship. Just you and a few others. Unarmed. We will provide an escort. You can explain your intentions in person. Thank you, Admiral. That's very reasonable. We'll prepare a shuttle immediately. 20 minutes later, Kesseth stood in the main docking bay. He had 20 armed Marines with him. All weapons ready. If this was a trap, it would be a short one. The human shuttle was small and plain. It docked smoothly. The airlock door opened. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first to step through. She was shorter than Kesseth expected. Humans were generally smaller than Valorians. She wore simple clothes, not a uniform. Behind her came 3 others. 2 were carrying medical cases. 1 pushed a cart loaded with containers. No weapons, no armor. Just 4 humans, with supplies and nervous smiles. Dr. Chen approached Kesseth and stopped a respectful distance away. She placed her right hand over her heart, in a gesture he recognized as a human greeting. Thank you for allowing us aboard, Admiral. Kesseth studied her face. He had learned to read alien expressions during his career. Dr. Chen looked tired, worried, but also hopeful, and completely sincere. You're really here to help? He said. It wasn't a question anymore. We really are. She gestured to the people behind her. This is Dr. Marcus Webb, our trauma specialist, Dr. Lisa Park, our engineer, and Samuel Rodriguez, our supply coordinator. We brought some basic supplies with us. Food that should be safe for your biology. Medical supplies. And some technical equipment. Dr. Park needs to assess your drive systems. Why? Kesseth asked again. Make me understand. Dr. Chen thought for a moment. Then she said, Have you ever been stranded, Admiral? Far from home? In trouble? Scared? Yes, Kesseth admitted. Did anyone help you? Eventually. My fleet found me. Then you know what it feels like. That hope when rescue comes. That relief when you realize you're going to be okay. Doctor, Chen stepped closer. We're not the same species. We don't know each other well. But suffering is suffering. Fear is fear. And no one should die alone in the dark when help is possible. Kesseth looked at his second-in-command. The officer looked as shocked as Kesseth felt. You would risk your lives for us. Kesseth said slowly. For strangers. For possible enemies. We'd risk our lives for anyone who needed help, Dr. Chen said simply. That's what we do. That's who we are. In that moment, standing in the docking bay of his wounded flagship, Admiral Kesseth realized something that would change everything. The intelligence reports were wrong. Not about human strength or determination. They were wrong about what humans use that strength for. My medical bay is this way, Kesseth said. Let me show you the wounded. Dr. Chen smiled. It was a genuine smile, full of relief and warmth. Thank you, Admiral. Let's save some lives. Sub-Commander. Thrace watched from the observation deck as more human ships arrived. He had counted 37 so far, and they kept coming. They came from different directions, with different markings on their hulls. Some were government ships, others belonged to private companies. A few even looked like they were owned by individual civilians. All of them came to help. I don't understand it, said Lieutenant Varro, standing next to him. Why do they care so much? Why? Thrace had no answer. He had been asking himself the same question for 3 days now. 3 days since the humans arrived. 3 days since Admiral Kesseth had allowed them to help. 3 days that had changed everything Thrace thought he knew about the galaxy. The human operation was massive. They called it Operation Distant Hand. More than 2,000 human personnel were now working alongside the Valorian fleet. Medical teams moved from ship to ship, treating the wounded. Engineers worked in the damaged drive sections, their hands moving with quick efficiency. Supply shuttles ran constantly, bringing food, water, medical supplies, replacement parts. Thrace had never seen anything like it. The humans worked tirelessly. They shared their food with Valorian crew members. They learned basic Valorian words to communicate better. They smiled and joked even while doing dangerous work in damaged sections of the ships. Thrace, a voice called out behind him. He turned to see Marcus Chen, one of the human engineers. Marcus waved and walked over, carrying a toolkit and wearing a pressure suit with the helmet under his arm. Hey, we're about to start work on your number 3 reactor. Your chief engineer said you know that system better than anyone. Want to help? 2. Thrace hesitated. He had been avoiding direct contact with the humans, unsure how to act around them. But Marcus looked at him with such open friendliness that refusing felt rude. Yes, Thrace said. I know that reactor well. Great. Come on, I'll introduce you to the team. As they walked through the corridors, Marcus talked constantly. He explained what the human team planned to do. He asked questions about Valorian engineering. He pointed out interesting differences between human and Valorian design philosophy. You build things strong, Marcus said. Really strong. Our stuff is more modular. Easier to replace but maybe not as durable. I like your approach. Very elegant. Our engines failed, Thrace pointed out. Yeah. But that was some kind of weird quantum cascade thing. Not a design flaw. Honestly, I'm impressed any of your ships survived it. Human ships would have torn apart. They reached the reactor section. 6 human engineers were already there, along with 3 Valorian technicians. Marcus introduced everyone. The humans were friendly. They asked the Valorians for advice. They listened carefully to the answers. Thrace found himself working next to Marcus for hours. The human was skilled. He understood complex systems quickly. He wasn't afraid to admit when he didn't know something. He asked questions and learned fast. During a break, Marcus pulled out a small device and showed Thrace pictures. His family, a wife, 2 children, a big dog. This is why I'm out here, Marcus said. My kids. I want them to grow up in a galaxy where people help each other, where being different species doesn't matter. So I volunteer for missions like this. You have a family, Thrace said slowly. Children. And you came here. To a potentially hostile military fleet. To help strangers. Marcus shrugged. Yeah. I mean, you guys needed help. Someone had to come. Why not me? You could die out here. I could die crossing the street back home. Life's risky. At least out here, I'm doing something that matters. Thrace stared at him. This made no sense. Warriors protected their families by staying close to them, by being available to defend them, not by flying across space to help strangers. But Marcus didn't see it as abandoning his family. He saw it as building a better future for them. Later that day, Thrace watched the human medical teams at work in the main medical bay. The bay had been overwhelmed with wounded before the humans arrived. Now it was organized and calm. Human doctors moved among Valorian patients, working with Valorian medical staff. He saw Dr. Sarah Chen stopping at each bed, checking on patients. She held hands with a young warrior who was frightened. She smiled at an older officer who had lost his legs. She treated everyone with gentle kindness. The humans saved my life, a voice said beside Thrace. He turned to see Commander Pelos, one of the fleet's senior officers. Pelos had been critically injured in the drive explosion. The Valorian doctors had said he would probably die. The human doctors worked on me for 7 hours. Pelos continued. They used techniques our doctors don't know. They gave me medicines from their own supplies. Doctor, Webb said he wouldn't let me die on his watch. Pelos smiled slightly. Stubborn creature. He kept his word. All across the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Humans working alongside Valorians, sharing meals, learning each other's languages, finding common ground. In one cargo bay, a human crew member had brought a guitar. She played music during breaks. Valorian crew members gathered to listen. The melodies were strange, but beautiful. Some Valorians shared their own songs in return. On another ship, human and Valorian engineers celebrated together after successfully repairing a critical system. They slapped each other's backs and laughed. Species didn't matter in that moment. They were just people who had accomplished something difficult together. Thrace returned to his quarters late that night. He sat at his small desk and pulled up the intelligence reports about humans. The reports called them dangerous, aggressive, unpredictable. The reports never mentioned this. They never said humans would fly across space to help strangers, that they would risk their lives for people they'd never met, that they would give freely without asking for anything in return. He thought about Marcus and his family, about Dr. Chen holding the hand of a frightened warrior, about the human ship captain who had personally delivered supplies to the most damaged ships, making sure everyone had what they needed. Thrace opened a communication channel to his father back on the homeworld. His father was a general, a man who had fought in many battles. Father, Thrace said when the connection established, I need to tell you something. The intelligence reports about humans are wrong. Not wrong about their strength. Wrong about what they do with it. He spent an hour telling his father everything he had seen. The relief operation. The volunteers. The kindness given freely. When he finished, his father was quiet for a long time. Be careful, son, his father finally said. These humans sound either very wise or very foolish. I'm not sure which. After the call ended, Thrace looked out his window at the human ships still arriving. Still bringing help. Still offering their hands to strangers. Maybe they're both, he whispered to himself. Wise enough to know what's right, and foolish enough to do it anyway. Admiral Kesseth looked at the formal dining hall. His staff had worked hard to prepare it. The long table was set with the finest dishes the fleet had. Valorian officers stood at attention in their dress uniforms. This was a formal occasion. A dinner to honor the humans who had saved them. Dr. Sarah Chen arrived with a delegation of 20 human mission leaders. Ship captains, medical directors, engineering chiefs. They wore their uniforms, clean and pressed. They looked uncomfortable with all the formality. Please, sit, Kesseth said, gesturing to the chairs. The dinner began. The food was good. The conversation was polite. But Kesseth could feel tension in the room. His officers had questions, doubts. They had been trained as warriors. and warriors understood certain rules. The humans had broken all those rules. Finally, Commander Pelos spoke up. He was direct. As always, Dr. Chen, I must ask. Why did you help us? Not the official answer. The real answer. We are a military fleet. We could be your enemies someday. You gave us aid when we were vulnerable. This makes no strategic sense. The room went quiet. Every Valorian officer leaned forward slightly. Every human looked at Dr. Chen. She set down her fork and thought for a moment. Then she said, "You're right. It doesn't make strategic sense. But strategy isn't everything. We helped you because you needed help. Because we could help. Because leaving you to die when we had the power to save you would have made us less than we want to be." Long. But weakness invites attack, another Valorian officer said. By showing compassion, you show vulnerability. Other species will exploit that. Maybe, said Captain Thompson, one of the human ship commanders. But we've found something interesting. When you help people, even potential enemies, something changes. Not always, not everyone, but often enough. What changes? Keseth asked. Understanding, Dr. Chen said. Fear drives most conflicts. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the other. Fear makes us see threats everywhere. But when we help each other, when we see each other as people instead of threats, fear loses its power. Marcus Chen, the engineer, spoke up. Admiral, can I tell you a story? From Earth's history, Keseth nodded. About 200 years ago, there was a massive earthquake in a region where two nations had been enemies for decades. Thousands of people were trapped. One nation sent rescue teams to help their enemy, not for politics, not for strategy, because people were dying and they could help. Those rescue workers saved hundreds of lives. And you know what happened? What? Asked Thrace, who sat near his admiral. 10 years later, those two nations signed a peace treaty. The rescue workers who dug through rubble together became friends. They talked to their governments. They said, "We've seen each other at our worst and our best. We're not so different." It didn't solve everything, but it started something. That's one example, a Valorian officer said skeptically. An exception. We have hundreds of examples, Dr. Chen said. Humans have been helping each other across national, cultural, and ideological lines for centuries. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes people do exploit kindness. But more often than you'd think, helping builds bridges. Admiral Keseth sat back in his chair. Your species risks much on hope. We risk much on people. Captain Thompson corrected. We believe most beings, most species, want the same basic things: safety, security, a good life for their families. When we help someone achieve those things, we make a friend. Or at least, we make someone less likely to be an enemy. And when it fails? Keseth asked. When someone sees your kindness as weakness and attacks? Then we defend ourselves, Dr. Chen said simply. We're not pacifists, Admiral. We're not naive. We know the galaxy can be dangerous, but we'd rather try peace first and keep war as the last option. We'd rather be known as the species that helps than the species that destroys. Subcommander Thrace spoke up, his voice thoughtful. You judge yourselves by different standards, not by how strong you are or how much territory you control, by how you treat others. Exactly, Marcus said, smiling at his engineering partner. My grandmother used to say, you can judge a person by how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. Same applies to species. You couldn't help us. You couldn't reward us. You couldn't threaten us. We helped anyway. That's the test we set for ourselves. Rate 1. We meaning this more. We helped to foreign where. We helped to Spart. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Officers jumped to their feet. Keseth's communicator crackled. Admiral, Ship 17's reactor is going critical. Containment failure. They have maybe 10 minutes before it explodes. Ship 17. 800 crew members. Kesseth's mind raced through options. Evacuate? Not enough time. Jettison the reactor? The ship was too damaged. The systems wouldn't respond fast enough. I'll go, said Captain Rodriguez, a human engineer. He stood up from the table. I've worked on Valorian reactors for the past week. I can stabilize it. It's a suicide mission, Kesseth said flatly. The radiation levels, I know, Rodriguez said. He was already moving toward the door. But I can do it. I'm going. 3 more human engineers stood up. We're going too. And us, said 2 Valorian engineers. Kesseth wanted to order them to stop, but he saw the determination in their faces. Human and Valorian, ready to die together to save lives. Go, he said. Go fast. The room emptied as people rushed to their stations. Kesseth returned to the bridge. On the main screen, he watched the shuttle race toward Ship 17. 6 engineers, 4 humans, 2 Valorians, all volunteers. Dr. Chen stood beside him, her face pale but composed. They might not make it back, Kesseth said quietly. I know, she whispered. But they're trying. That's what matters. Minutes felt like hours. The engineers boarded Ship 17. They raced to the reactor room. Kesseth listened to their communications. Technical jargon. Calm voices despite the danger. Working together. We need to flood the core with coolant, Rodriguez said. But someone has to manually open the emergency valves. The radiation in that chamber will be lethal. I'll do it, said a Valorian engineer. No, I will, Rodriguez said. I'm older. You have kids. So do you. I saw the pictures. A pause. Then, Rodriguez laughed. A strange sound given the circumstances. Okay. We'll do it together. We open the valves at the same time. We both get exposed, but only half as much. Better odds for both of us. Agreed. Kesseth watched the radiation readings spike as the 2 engineers entered the chamber. He heard them counting down. The valves opened. Coolant flooded the reactor core. The temperature began to drop. The reactor stabilized. They did it, the sensors officer said. Ship 17 is safe. Get them to medical, Kesseth ordered. The 6 engineers returned to the flagship. Rodriguez and the Valorian engineer, Mekor, were barely conscious. The radiation exposure had been severe. They were rushed to medical. Kesseth went to the medical bay. He found Dr. Chen already there with her medical team. They were working frantically, using every technique they knew. Valorian doctors stood beside them, contributing their own knowledge. Will they live? Kesseth asked. We're trying everything, Dr. Chen said without looking up from her work. We need more compatible blood for Mekor. His type is rare. Use mine, said a Valorian Marine who stepped forward. And mine, said another. Soon a line of Valorian crew members formed, all offering their blood to save the engineers. Human and Valorian working together, fighting to save the lives of those who had saved them. Admiral Kesseth stood in the doorway and watched. He finally understood. This was why the humans helped. Not for strategy. Not for advantage. Because in helping others, they became the people they wanted to be. And in the process, they inspired others to do the same. The medical bay was quiet now. Captain Rodriguez lay in one bed, his eyes closed but his breathing steady. Engineer Mekor was in the next bed, also stable. Both men would live. The human and Valorian doctors had worked together for 18 hours straight to save them. Sub-Commander Thrace sat between the 2 beds. He had been there all night. Marcus Chen found him there in the morning, still keeping watch. You should rest, Marcus said softly. I wanted to be here when they woke up, Thrace replied. They saved 800 lives. 2 heroes. 1 human. 1 Valorian. They went into that chamber together. Marcus sat down beside him. Mekor has 3 kids. Did you know that? Rodriguez has 2. They sat in silence for a while. Then Thrace said, "My father asked me if humans were wise or foolish. I told him maybe both. But I was wrong. You're just good. That's all. You're good people." Marcus smiled but shook his head. "We're not perfect. Humans have done terrible things in our history. We've fought wars. We've been cruel. We're not saints. But you try to be better." "Yeah, we try." On the bridge, Admiral Kesseth stood before the main display. The fleet's quantum drives were repaired. All ships were operational. The wounded had recovered, or were recovering. Supplies were fully stocked. After 3 weeks of desperate struggle, the Valorian fleet was ready to go home. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside him, looking at the same display. "You'll need to make a report to your government," she said, "about what happened here." "Yes," Kesseth said. He had been thinking about that report for days. "What will you tell them?" Kesseth was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The truth. That we expected wolves and found shepherds. That humanity helped us when they had no reason to. That human volunteers risked their lives for Valorian strangers. Ask. Some of your leaders won't like that," Dr. Chen said carefully. "They might see it as a trick, or as weakness to exploit. I know. But I've also seen what happens when fear and suspicion drive decisions. It leads to wars no one wanted, to deaths that could have been prevented. I won't be part of that anymore." He turned to look at her. "Dr. Chen, I want to invite a human delegation to accompany our fleet home. As guests. As friends. Let our people meet you. Let them see what I've seen." Dr. Chen's eyes went wide. "That's a significant gesture, Admiral. You made a significant sacrifice. The least we can do is let you see it wasn't in vain." Below them, in the cargo bays and corridors, humans and Valorians were saying goodbye. Thrace found Marcus in the engineering section, gathering his tools. "You're leaving," Thrace said. "Yeah, time to head home. My kids want their dad back." Marcus smiled. "But hey, we did good work together. That reactor runs better now than it did before the crisis. Marcus, I need to tell you something. When your ships first arrived, I thought it was a trick. I thought humans were dangerous. Aggressive. We can be," Marcus said honestly. "But that's not who you want to be. No. We want to be the people who help. The people who build instead of destroy. We want to be remembered for making things better." Marcus held out his hand. "Friends?" Thrace looked at the hand. In 3 weeks, he had learned this human gesture. He grasped Marcus's hand firmly. "Friends," he said. The departure ceremony was formal but emotional. The human ships began leaving in groups. Each departure was accompanied by messages of gratitude from the Valorian fleet. Crew members who had worked together exchanged contact information, promises to stay in touch, to meet again. Admiral Kesseth recorded a message to be broadcast to all human ships. "People of Earth and her colonies, you came when we needed help. You asked for nothing in return. You showed us that strength isn't just the power to destroy. It's also the courage to help. On behalf of the Valorian Imperium, I thank you. And I promise you this. We will remember what you've done here. We will honor it. And we will strive to be worthy of the friendship you've offered." Dr. Chen and a small delegation of 10 humans boarded the flagship. They would travel with the fleet back to Valorian space. Kesseth had arranged for them to address the High Council. As the fleet prepared to depart, Kesseth stood in his ready room, preparing his official report. He wrote carefully, knowing his words would be analyzed by military leaders and politicians. "The human species represents a strategic paradigm we have not previously encountered. They possess significant military capability, but prioritize humanitarian values. They helped our fleet unconditionally, risking their lives and resources for no tactical advantage. This behavior suggests a species that values life and cooperation Above conquest. Very W-teen. Very W-teen. He paused, then added, I recommend immediate diplomatic engagement with humanity. Not because we fear them, but because we need them. The galaxy needs more species like this. Species that help instead of harm. Species that build bridges instead of walls. We should learn from them. And we should stand with them. The fleet jumped to quantum drive. 47 ships heading home. Aboard them, 12,000 Valorian crew members who had learned something important. That the universe was bigger and stranger and sometimes kinder than they had imagined. Months later, construction began on a new station. It was built at the exact coordinates where the Valorian fleet had been stranded. The station was a joint project. Human and Valorian crews working together. It would serve as a relief station, a place where ships in distress could find help, a memorial to the day when humanity chose compassion over conquest, and a symbol of what was possible when people reached across the darkness to help each other. Sub-Commander Thrace was assigned to the station as part of the Valorian contingent. On his first day, he received a message from Marcus Chen. Hey partner, heard you got assigned to the new station. That's great. I'm putting in a request to visit in a few months. We should grab dinner. I want to hear how everything turned out with your Admiral's report. Also, my daughter is doing a school project about the relief operation. She wants to interview a Valorian officer. Think you'd have time to talk to a curious 8-year-old? She asks really good questions. Take care, and see you soon. Thrace smiled and sent a reply. Tell your daughter I'd be honored. And yes, let's have that dinner. I've learned to appreciate human food. Especially that thing you called pizza. See you soon, my friend. In the center of the new station, they placed a memorial. It listed the names of everyone who had participated in Operation Distant Hand. Human names and Valorian names. Side by side. At the top, an inscription in both languages. Here, strangers became friends. Here, fear gave way to hope. Here, we learned that the measure of a civilization is not its power to destroy, but its courage to help. May this light shine forever, as a reminder of what we can be when we choose compassion over conflict. Admiral Kesseth visited the station for the dedication ceremony. He stood before the memorial with Dr. Sarah Chen beside him. You changed us, he said quietly. Your people came with relief supplies and gave us something more valuable. You gave us hope. Hope that the galaxy could be better than we thought. Dr. Chen smiled. You changed too, Admiral. You chose to trust us. That took courage. Not as much courage as it took for your people to help us. Maybe we needed each other, Dr. Chen said. Maybe that's the point. We're stronger together than apart. Kesseth looked up at the stars visible through the station's massive windows. Somewhere out there, the universe continued its ancient dance. Species rose and fell. Empires expanded and collapsed. Wars were fought and peace treaties signed. But here, in this one corner of space, something different had happened. Two species had met not in battle, but in mercy. And in that meeting, both had discovered something precious. The knowledge that they were not alone, and that somewhere out there, across the vast darkness, there were people who would come when called, who would help when needed, who would risk everything for strangers, because that's what good people did. Human or Valorian, it didn't matter. Good people helped, and in helping, they made the universe a little brighter, a little kinder, and a little more filled with hope.